Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a bit of a review reaction video. Review reaction video where we go through some reviews. I'm going to use allears.net because they're just anybody can go and leave reviews for pretty much anything at Disney World. They have reviews for hotels, they have reviews for dining, but today I wanted to do the hotels that we have stayed in since we've been married, and give our reaction to those things, because I think a lot of times when people leave reviews online, they're only talking about them really if they're negative. So I thought it would be interesting to see how they compare to our experiences. So I'm just going to do a couple for each hotel. So let's start with, let's see.
So we're reading reviews of hotels that we've stayed at Disney World and seeing if we agree.
Right.
Okay.
So let's start with values. So Pop Century, we stayed at Pop Century before.
Yep.
We have stayed in a preferred room there. So that is our experience. So according to allears.net, which is a great website that I really recommend, by the way, the overall rating is a 7.70 out of 10. They have 165 reviews, and it says it's recommended by 85% of people.
Okay. Did you like Pop Century?
I liked it a lot more than I expected to.
Yeah, me too. That was our first value resort. We had only ever stayed at moderates and deluxes. And yeah, I liked it more than I thought I would have.
Yes. Obviously, deluxes are going to be our favorite once you've stayed there. But
they're pretty awesome.
Right. So I was kind of skeptical. But
all right.
Let's see.
What are some of the reviews?
Okay, let's pick this one. Nice refurbished rooms, very clean, staff was friendly and helpful. The food on site was also very good. Pros, good price for the room. Cons, our room was one of the furthest out, and it was a good hike after a long day at the parks.
I mean, we stayed in the preferred room, so our room was closer to the main building.
And ours was not refurbished.
Yeah, and we didn't have a refurbished room, but I've seen pictures of the refurbished rooms,
nice.
And they were very nice. And even if, well, I imagine by this point they're all refurbished.
Yes.
They were in the middle of it when we were there. But even before they were, it's not like they were bad rooms. It's a decent sized resort, so I can see how it would be like a long hike from the main building if you didn't have a preferred room.
Yes. For people that, if you really care about the location and you're worried about that kind of thing, definitely get a preferred room. It costs extra, but it's not like it's twice as much or anything like that. But the larger resorts on Disney property have preferred rooms. If it's a small resort, they don't even have the option of a preferred room. Like French Quarter doesn't even have an option.
No. Okay. I agree with that review. Okay. That's fine.
How about we do one positive and one negative?
Okay. So that was the positive.
Okay. So I'm going to...
So now you're doing least positive.
Or in the...
Ooh, 1 out of 10 stars.
Okay. So this one said 1 out of 10 stars. We just returned from Disney, staying at Pop Century. Never again!
Never again.
Exclamation point. Room smelled. Food court beverage station.
Smelled like what?
Food court beverage station had horrible tasting drinks. Customer service is non-existent. Very rude at front desk. I will spend a little extra and go for moderate. Just a note, I have been to Disney World 36 times staying on property, and this was the worst ever. They didn't list anything for pros or cons.
I mean, okay, customer service is non-existent, very rude at front desk. We have never experienced that at any resort. They have always, I'm not saying that our stays have been perfect, but whenever we've had an issue, they've been willing to fix it.
I will say the worst experience was at Pop in that regard. We had, okay, this is one experience, and this is that.
I don't remember
this. This is one experience for that person. So, oh, hello. This was one experience out of how many guests that they have for that person, and we had one experience. Now, when we were there, they had an issue checking people in, so we had a very long wait to check in, and it was less than an hour, but we did have quite a long wait, and then they did not apologize.
Yeah.
And I thought that was bad, that they didn't say, like, sorry about the wait. That's all they had to say, and I would have been totally happy. It wasn't so awful because this was like an unusual circumstance. So, they're not going to have this problem where their check-in system is down every time. So that's why I didn't feel the need to
right.
tell
that
people
was,
about it.
Right. That was unusual. And yeah, that was a long wait and that sucked, but it's not something that's like a huge issue with Pop Century. Okay, everybody say hello to Scout. Scout is here.
Hi, yes, hello. Okay, room smelled. It probably wasn't updated when they went in. I've never had a smelly room before. I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Food court beverage station had horrible tasting drinks. There's generally like they have multiples, and that one, did you get something you didn't like?
Right. I mean, it's the normal drinks. It's like
So
Coke.
this is a good example of I don't mean to discount, maybe they did have a bad stay. I don't mean to discount their opinion, but I would not determine whether or not I would stay at Pop Century based on that review.
No.
Okay.
All right.
So moving on, now let's do the moderates. So
Okay.
French Quarter, Port Orleans French Quarter is a moderate resort. It
Wow, recommended by 98%.
Okay, so 136 reviews. It is rated 8.97 out of 10 and recommended by 98%. So starting with the least positive. Okay, part of the problem here is people don't know that like 0 or like when you say 1 star, that doesn't mean good. They don't understand how.
This person gave 0 out of 10 stars.
And we want to thank all of our help. This person made our stay magical. Okay, so
What in the world?
here. Okay, so
My favorite resort, 1 star.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So this one is 2 stars out of 10 for Port Orleans French Quarter. A Motel 6 range hotel.
What?
The hotel is old and it shows. The walls were dirty and needed cleaning with soap and white vinegar. Specifically soap and white vinegar. Nothing else will do. TV remote did not work. They dropped off batteries the first night. Did not work. Second night dropped off remote but did not come it to try to see if it worked. Finally gave up and went to bed. They made it sound like they went 2 nights without sleeping. Last morning figured out you have to point remote at right corner to get it to work. Overall musty old smell. Elevators, only 1 per building, had to walk to back and then front again if room was on the other end. Nothing special about the room for the price you pay. They lost my scooter and I had to wait until it just appeared in front as if by magic. With other problems in the park regarding scooter use and other issues, we'll never visit Disney again unless someone else pays for everything, and that might make up for the money ill spent. Pros: pool, VIP service for unscented bedding. Cons: room dirty, broken TV, customer service attitude, elevators. Okay, so the hotel has been recently remodeled. We remodeled Rubidor there, didn't we?
That was at Coronado.
So we stayed at Port Orleans French Quarter in August. So less than a year ago. We had a very positive things to say about it. We did not have a single bad experience. We did not find anything dirty. We did not find anything that needed to be cleaned specifically with soap and white vinegar. That's odd. I've not seen that. The worst experience we had there was in regard to, this is when they had just started, they no longer had the do not disturb signs on the rooms, and they just said room occupied. And we would have the sign up and people would come and be like trying to take a nap or something. And we then found out that somebody needs to come in the room once per day since the shooting in Las Vegas, where the guy had
holed up in his room for like days
and he had guns,
accumulated an arsenal of weapons.
So Disney needs to have somebody come in your room once per day. We've since learned now we request our room to be cleaned every day at 10:30. And we did that on our last trip, and we had no issues. It was perfect. Yes, hello. It was perfect. But then we did have an issue where, like, we had called. They called and they said, "We see that you've had your do not disturb sign up. We need to come in your room." And we said, "Okay, can you come at such and such a time?" And they said yes. But then they came at a different time. I think like there was a communication issue. It wasn't a big deal.
It was fine.
It worked out just fine. We did not have any issues with elevators or
There is more than one elevator per building. I mean, they're in one spot, but there's two. There's two elevators.
That's twice as many as she mentioned. We had no scooter, so we can't say that they lost it. They have beignets, though, so that makes up for a lot.
What do you mean they? And she said they lost my scooter. Why do they have your scooter?
I'm not understanding that either.
Right. Like, the hotel staff should never take your scooter. I don't get that.
Unless somebody dropped it off, and I don't get it either. And with other problems in the park, so that has nothing to do with the hotel.
Regarding scooter use and other issues, we'll never visit Disney again unless someone else pays for everything.
Yeah, I'm not understanding that. But again, we had no bad experience.
Also, what is VIP service? So they said
The
one of the
VIP
pros
service
is VIP service for unscented bedding.
Yes.
What is that? You know what that is?
That is a VIP room clean, is I'm assuming what they're talking about,
okay.
which you can request if you have very severe allergies, and that you should do that if you have an allergy to dog, not just if you're staying in a dog room, because service animals can be in any room. So if it's a service animal and not a pet, it can be in any room. But then they clean things with like special cleaners and non-scented things. Okay.
All right. It's not a Motel 6.
We will definitely stay there again.
Yeah, and it was recommended by 98% of people, so just saying. Scout really wants to be in this video.
Okay, so now we're going to do the most positive. This one said 10 out of 10 stars. This is my absolute... You're going to throw my computer on the floor. This is my absolute favorite resort, and that was confirmed after my trip earlier this month. I got to meet Shelly, the delightful bartender, after seeing many of her posts on Facebook. Then I saw Tim, who actually remembered me from my trip last year. All the cast members are extremely friendly, and they all smile and greet you all the time. Pros, love the small size and the boat to Disney Springs. Cons, only con is that it's difficult to get a reservation.
Mm-hmm. Agree. I've never met, what is it? Shelly, the delightful bartender.
Or Tim,
who remembered her from her last trip. But the cast members are good. French Quarter's awesome. I'm totally
Beignets.
I would be like 10 out of 10 stars.
Yeah. We did do the boat to Disney Springs. I wasn't super impressed with that because it just takes a long time. I mean, boats in general, because they have to go so slowly, I don't recommend traveling by boat if you're ever in a hurry, and I'm always in a hurry. But it definitely wasn't bad at all. It's kind of cool because you go past the treehouse villas.
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat.
All right.
Okay.
French Quarter, you should stay there. Ignore the reviews that say things need to be cleaned with
Otherwise.
white vinegar
And soap.
and soap.
Okay.
And Motel 6 and whatever.
Port Orleans Riverside. So this is the same hotel. Like, it's technically the same hotel as Port Orleans French Quarter, but they have it split into a section of Port Orleans French Quarter, which is a small section, and Port Orleans Riverside, which is very large. At Riverside, we've stayed in a preferred room, and we've stayed in royal guest rooms. And I love it. Okay.
Riverside is one of your favorites.
So it has 163 reviews, overall rating of 8.52 out of 10, and recommended by 93% of people. So, okay, here is the worst review. 1 star. I have stayed at Riverside 5 times, going back to 1999 when it was still Dixie Landings. It is hands down my favorite resort in all of Walt Disney World. I even have a framed... Okay, this is a really positive review and somebody doesn't know.
1 out of
People,
10 stars.
yes, this person doesn't know that 1 star is bad. Okay, let's move on to a bad one. Okay, so the actual worst review is 2 stars out of 10. Not recommended. This resort continues to go downhill. We were there for a 12-day stay. The food court is grossly undersized. It is not enjoyable to fight the crowds first thing in the morning, every morning of vacation. Buses are inefficient, crowded. Couldn't get a chair by the pool most of our stay due to crowds. The addition of pets to this resort will most likely push us elsewhere in the future, and this has been our home resort for many years. Pros, theming, proximity to Disney Springs. Cons, overcrowded pets and cafeteria.
I have thoughts. So, I don't know what they're talking about that the food court is grossly undersized. Like, I think it is huge. I agree with the buses. We have been taking a rental car for the last several trips now because we have issues with waiting for the buses and them being overcrowded. And
not just at Riverside.
Not just at Riverside. That's a bus issue.
I did not find Riverside to be that much.
It's not different than the other ones.
No,
as far as the buses.
We've had less than ideal bus situations everywhere, and you kind of have to go into it thinking like, this is not private transportation for you. You need to allow enough time. You need to wait and be patient, and you need to go into it with the attitude of, I mean, it's built into your cost, but think of it like this is free transportation. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to, then you can always rent a car, and then you have to pay for parking your car at the hotel, but you can park for free at the park if you are staying at a hotel. But you do have to keep that in mind.
It is what it is with the buses. That's not unique to Riverside. It's not
Agreed.
fair to include that in the review. I don't get what they're talking about, though, with the food court being undersized and overcrowded.
They couldn't get a chair by the pool. There's a bunch of pools. Mm-hmm. They have many pools. Mm-hmm. The feature pool was closed when we were there last. We went to our...
Old Man Island?
Yes, we went to our quiet pool by our building. No issues.
Right.
There was chairs on chairs on chairs on chairs. There was like acres of chairs. There's not a problem there. The addition of pets. Okay, the pets are limited to specific buildings, specific areas in these resorts that do allow pets. The entire hotel is not going to be overrun with dogs, and this is coming from somebody who I am not a dog. Right. I am not a dog person. You could clearly see, or you could see I'm a cat person anyway. But
where'd she go?
She has plans. But you need to understand that they're not just going to be everywhere. They need to be on a leash, and in terms of the rooms they're staying in, if they're not a service animal, which are typically extraordinarily well behaved, they will be in a very specific area of the hotel, and you can request to not be in that area. Now, especially in a room or in a hotel like Port Orleans Riverside, look up the section that the dogs are in, and then stay in a different section. Or, for example, like at Art of Animation, the dogs can be in the Little Mermaid section. Then you can stay in a suite. I mean, it's a different category, or you can stay in one of the other hotels. If you stay in a royal guest room at Riverside, you know you're not going to be by the dogs because dogs aren't allowed in the royal guest rooms, and they're all together.
Mm-hmm. Last time we were there, were pets allowed at Riverside?
Yes.
Did we ever see a pet?
One.
Did we?
One. We saw one. A lady was walking her dog when we were, remember, because it barked at me. It was a little guy.
Yeah, and so clearly that left an impression. It's not overrun with pets. All right,
Yep.
What's the next one?
Okay. So moving on to the last of the moderates that we've stayed at thus far is Coronado Springs.
Okay.
67 reviews, rating of 7.67 out of 10, recommended by 82%.
I like Coronado Springs more than you do.
Okay. Wow, people have really long.
Yeah, we don't have time for your long negative review.
Well, this one is really old though. Oh, this one is the least long. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so this one, they gave it 3 stars out of 10. They did have somebody that gave it like 2 people that gave it 2 stars, but they're super long. So I'm going to do the 3-star review.
I'm excited to see where this one goes because the last sentence is, I can't suggest enough that you go anywhere else to stay.
Okay, 3 stars out of 10, not recommended. The W and the E were capitalized, so I thought I should put emphasis in that.
We stayed here.
We
stayed her.
We stayed her last March and again for 2 nights of a split stay, September 16th and 17th. We didn't like the resort in March, but decided to try again.
Okay.
I mentioned that we picked it for our extra days so my son could have a bed. I also mentioned that during the 30 minutes it took us to check in, no extra bed, even though the resort appeared basically empty. We had stayed at Pop the beginning of our trip, and it was interesting to see the comparisons. The room was bigger at Coronado, but not as well appointed as Pop. The shower was identical. The 2 sinks would be nice if we were share the bathroom, folks, but we tend to be quick, and therefore 1 is plenty. The resort is way too spread out. The big pool was so far from the front of the resort, it was pointless to go to it for a quick swim. The directions to get from place to place were terrible at best. The food court was awful. You would expect the food to be better at a moderate, but there were far fewer choices, and the food we did choose was awful. The mac and cheese was downright disgusting. My daughter, who loves Disney mac and cheese, was very disappointed. With no better free dining level for moderate resorts, I can't even imagine any reason to stay there unless you had to for a conference. It was the absolute worst bus service we had the entire week at Pop. We waited over 20 minutes for a bus to Early Extra Magic at Animal Kingdom and assumed we had missed the first bus. On talking to others, though, we discovered they had been waiting since before 7 and we all got on the first bus at 7:40. Needless to say, we missed rope drop by a lot and it ruined our plans. I can't suggest enough that you go anywhere else to stay. Pros on property, cons, everything else.
Okay. So, one thing I like about Coronado is that they have recently refurbished rooms that are really nice. They have like legitimate closets in them. And they're just like, they maximize the space. I just really like them.
I did a review, I'm not sure if we both did, of our stay in December between Christmas and New Year's. And we had a preferred room, refurbished preferred king bed room, hard floors, an actual closet, and which we'd never had in a moderate before. Nice shower with like glass doors. It was very, very nice.
Okay.
It is huge. It is a huge resort.
Yeah. It is big.
This is one of those things, like, you need to know that going in. If you don't want to stay at a big resort, you need to pay for a preferred room.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. And once again, this makes it sound like there's one pool. There are multiple pools, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go to the nearest pool. I realize that one of the pools is like the feature pool and then the other ones are like quiet pools and they're smaller. But you're not going to be far from a pool. And then the other thing is that they dedicate several sentences to the macaroni and cheese, which I find is interesting.
It's the same recipe that they use the entire...
They use the same recipe everywhere.
Maybe it was like
on Disney parks.
Old or something?
I don't know.
The food court, okay. I didn't super love the food court. I didn't think it was bad. It's Mexican food. It's a Mexican themed resort.
Oh, let's talk about the size of the ice cream dishes.
We talked about that before.
That is a legitimate
That is a complaint. The size of the ice cream dishes, I thought it was the lid.
We just really wanted ice cream.
I wanted my ice cream.
Here's the other thing. Once again, a bus complaint. The buses are the buses.
They need work.
The buses need work. It's not unique to any specific resort.
It's not like if you stay... This is at Coronado. It's not like I would say, oh, that's definitely not going to happen if you stay at Riverside or French Park. No, I mean, the buses need work. I've complained about this for a long time. It's not a reason to just not go. And I don't think it's going to make a difference. I don't think any of the specific buses or people that are driving these buses are always at this particular resort. It's the same bus system everywhere.
Right. Here's my other issue with this resort. Or with this review, excuse me. We didn't like the resort in March, but decided to try again.
I did that.
With what?
Coronado. The first time I didn't like it, and then I stayed there again in December. And I said never again.
That's because you're a nice person and I liked it.
That's true. Apparently,
right.
I did not dislike it nearly as much as this woman.
What's the positive review? Oh, wow. We're 24 minutes into this video. I hope you enjoy our banter.
Okay. 10 stars. Staying here as a teenager and still have fond memories of it today. I'm 30. Pros, excellent immersive South American atmosphere, good food, clean rooms, and amazing pool. Cons, not super close to all 4 parks.
Agree with all of that. I mean, it isn't super close.
You can't be close to all 4 parks no matter where you stay.
But you can't be close to all 4 parks no matter where you stay. We've stayed at all-inclusives in Mexico. That's what it feels like.
It depends what section you stay in.
All-inclusive.
Right. The one section is like very Sedona, Arizona-y. Mm-hmm. It was cool. We ran around there. It was nice to be able to see all the different areas of the resort when we're running. And they're currently remodeling. They're adding the restaurant on the water. The tower is coming. So
it'll be neat to see when that's done. The reason, one of the reasons I like Coronado is because I like staying in tropical places. We live in Wisconsin, and I like the novelty of having palm trees and a tropical looking environment around me. And that's what Coronado is. So whatever. I like Coronado. I really like the refurbished rooms.
And it was the theme that I didn't really care for. It had nothing to do with like any service or anything like that. It wasn't my favorite in terms of theming. So it was just personal preference, but there were no problems. I didn't have a bad experience or anything. since they remodeled the rooms, I definitely liked it better this last time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm not closed off to the idea of staying there again.
They did a great job with the refurbishment. All right. The next resort is my favorite. So the negative reviews, I'm going to take like personally. Oh, we're doing
We have
two more.
deluxes.
Either one of these, I'm going to take the negative reviews personally. They're objectively wrong.
Okay, so Grand Floridian, we both loved it. Love it. I've been
I'm
there.
surprised you didn't save this for last. This is our absolute favorite.
I just
Whatever. That's the tab that's open. Let's
Okay.
do Grand Floridian.
20 reviews, which is not surprising because it is very expensive. Rating 8.10 out of 10, recommended by 85%. I'm shocked it's not high.
15% of people are stupid.
I think it's more because when you're paying so much money for a room, people are like, no, I'm paying this much money and it better be perfect. And nothing can be perfect. So if that's your attitude, you should not be staying at a hotel that's that much money, I guess.
I feel like you need to read this review just because of that phrase.
Okay. Here is...
Is this a positive review
Yep,
disguised
recommended.
as a 1-star review? Why do people do this?
Yeah, there's... Okay, we can't do that one
Read
then.
it, actual.
And that
oh
one is...
my god, that's so long.
So the reason it doesn't have better is because the person who left the worst review gave it 1 star thought that 1 star is good.
That's dumb. You should read that one as the positive one though, because it looks interesting.
Okay. So the worst one is 3 stars. I'll read quickly.
Where's the main part? Oh my god, they ramble so much. They're talking about the Hyatt Regency and their credenza. What is a credenza?
Okay.
Wait, they don't get to the Grand Floridian until down here. And then they talk
No.
positively about it.
We have heard many reports that Disney World has been finding ways to reduce its housekeeping staff. We were even offered a very small monetary incentive to forego daily housekeeping altogether. Since rooms are generally assigned several weeks prior to a guest's arrival, no pleading, begging, or cash under the counter will get you to your assigned room much before 4 p.m. That is not true. Rooms are assigned upon check-in. The day that you check in, not online check-in, the day you arrive. So that is completely not true. When we arrived, fortunately for us, we only had to wait 30 minutes before the food court opened at 7 a.m. My scooter arrived at 8 a.m. as promised, and we were off to Epcot in order to make our way to the Dolphin Resort to pick up our car before 2 p.m. After a very nice meal at Lobster Buffet, we finally received a text message saying your room was ready. Across the street from the restaurant is a Publix grocery store. Okay, so they're
Where are they?
off property apparently.
So they went to some lobster buffet in Orlando? See, like, they don't start... I'm confused. Here's where they start talking about the Grand Floridian.
Yeah, they even gave a review of a different hotel they stayed in.
The Hyatt Regency.
Is this a positive review? Yes. No. Okay. The crowning moment of our Orlando celebration came when they were there for a very long time. Came when we arrived at the Grand Floridian. One is generally awestruck by the majestic structure.
Agreed.
We reserved a room on the concierge level with the theme park view, room 4006. As always, our room was not ready and we were invited to wait in the private lounge area on the 4th floor where there was plenty of food to snack on and wait. At this time, I returned to the 3rd floor to speak to a concierge to request early housekeeping. He asked me at what hour I would like the room cleaned. I told him any time before 2 p.m. because I had to rest and we had reservations at the chef's table the following evening. He assured me that our room would be cleaned before 2 p.m. during our stay. The view of the Magic Kingdom from our balcony on the third floor was exquisite. The fireworks display that evening was visually outstanding, but marred by our neighbors on both sides with their very loud talking and shouting, so the accompanying music was barely audible. The next day, we returned to our room, fully exhausted at 2 p.m. and found our room as we had left it that morning. No housekeeping had been done. Nearly in a rage, I stormed down the hall to speak to the concierges and found 3 milling around their desks. With a firm and forceful voice, I informed these concierges that we were assured our room would be cleaned by 2 p.m. It was important to us and not for some silly reason either. I told them yesterday we have reservations for the chef's table, we need to rest, and we needed time to properly prepare our evening clothes. I told them I need to have this room cleaned now! Exclamation point. Someone from housekeeping finally arrived to our room 45 minutes later. I requested to speak to a manager at the front desk downstairs. Nearly 30 minutes later, the manager of housekeeping met with me. I told him this was not a housekeeping issue. Rather, it was an issue with the concierges who assured me our room would be cleaned by 2 p.m. This manager told me our room will be cleaned by 2 p.m. the next day, our last day. Then he wanted to know what I wanted for restitution. I told him I wasn't looking for restitution. He said that he will speak to his manager and they would decide on some form of restitution. We heard nothing further from hotel management.
They seem like freaks.
Our experience at the chef's table was beyond our wildest expectations. There are no words to describe this experience. After this meal, they must be in at Victoria and Albert.
Yeah.
After this meal, it was simply wonderful to have a room just upstairs and be able to fall into bed completely sated and totally exhausted. The following evening, we immensely enjoyed the Magic Kingdom fireworks from our balcony because we had no neighbors to mar the experience. Was the Grand Floridian worth $1,000 a day? Our room badly needed a facelift. The plumbing for the bathroom sinks had issues. There were no safety bars in the shower. I had to request a tub mat. Some of the electrical sockets did not have power. Most of the switch and plug plates were loose. There were few drawers in the credenza and they were small, and the carpet was sadly worn throughout and stained in several areas. We were both happy to leave the Grand Floridian and glad our trip to the airport on Magical Express service was on time and uneventful. Pros: excellent theme park view. Cons: room and concierge. We have stayed concierge in the main building before as well, so we have several times. So we have a very good feeling of how things operate there. I would be shocked if anybody actually assured her room would be cleaned by 2, because every single time we have ever made a request, they say, yes, I can accommodate, we should be able to accommodate that. I can enter that request. Please know it is just a request, but they will do their best to get there. They make it clear that
they're not making promises. They're very straightforward about saying
the Grand Floridian has over 900 rooms that they have to clean. And check-in is until 4. So I can understand. I mean, if they were assured, I'm not saying, like, then you shouldn't be doing it. You know, don't promise something you can't deliver. I get that. Storming in and yelling probably isn't going to help. You're not going to get a lot of sympathy, I think, if you do that. Because it's $1,000, you can't expect to misbehave or behave badly and get a decent reaction.
Right. This is the perfect example of somebody having one bad experience, and so they rant about it on the internet. Like, I stormed down the hallway. Like, way to be dramatic. I don't know.
Yes. Yes, you can have loud neighbors, and that's something
that's beyond their control. What do you want the hotel to do about that?
I mean, if it's...
You're going to include that in a hotel review?
If it's really bad, then tell the hotel that you have a noise complaint so they can address it.
Right, which they
or
didn't do.
Address it yourself.
Storm over there. Knock on the door.
It's very...
Excuse me, madam. I am displeased with your
it's
level of noise.
It's very odd to me, because this person has very high expectations, which I understand, so do I, but that you would pay $1,000 a night for a room, again, with the view, knowing that, like, I don't know, I guess I would think of these things. You know, think of, like, if it's that important to you to be able to watch the fireworks from your balcony, it would occur to me, like, just so you know, you're going to have people on either side of you.
Right.
I mean, a theme park view club level room at the Grand Floridian is extremely expensive, so I get that. I would request to have maintenance fix things like plugs if that's an issue, or plumbing if that's an issue. Did you tell anybody, or did you just complain about it on the internet? for the next person to find out, because housekeeping doesn't go and check every single plug every single time. So you have to tell somebody or they're not going to know. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now you wanted me to do this one for the positive review.
Yeah, do a positive.
That gave it 1 star, even though they meant to give it a lot more. This was my second stay at the Grand Floridian. My family was booked into the Big Pine Key building. The resort's lobby is truly magnificent, and after a near nonstop drive from Atlanta, the live jazz and relaxed atmosphere is a balm to the weary traveler.
I love that phrase.
The attention from cast members at this resort is second to none. The theming of this resort is decidedly grown-up Disney and a bit more fancy than my t-shirt and shorts wardrobe. But it's okay, it's Disney after all.
I like the description of grown-up Disney.
Our room was very spacious and accommodating for a family of 5, mom, dad, and 3 daughters, ranging in age from 19 to 12, and full-size humans. We were situated on the Seven Seas Lagoon, and the views were beautiful. We faced the Polynesian Resort and Wedding Pavilion and also had views of the monorail line. At night, the sounds of the Friendship Bells and the, I think they mean boats, and the Magic Kingdom Railroad could be heard, clearly adding a wonder bit of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, I imagine.
Whatever.
We took advantage of the food court several times during our stay. One night we sat outside of the
food court?
Gasparilla, of the food court, eating desserts and watching the fireworks from the Magic Kingdom. The soundtrack of the fireworks is played over the Grand Floridian Resort sound system. That was a nice touch. We used both pools late at night. They were, of course, practically all to ourselves due to the late hour. Pros, beautiful settings, smaller sized grounds than many Disney resorts. Opulent and reserved styling is great for grown-ups and those with more high-end tastes. Cons, costs feels less fun or little kid-oriented, unless, of course, your little kids are used to 5-star high-end lifestyle.
You have something to say about that. You stayed at the Grand Floridian as a kid.
To back up to the food court, it's not a food court. They just have a quick service restaurant.
Yeah,
I mean, they have other
food
restaurants, but in
the wrong
terms
word.
No, they have a quick service restaurant. No, I stayed there as a small child, as did my siblings. They are completely willing to accommodate you. They have a splash pad, which is for little kids. It's just a Victorian theme. And yes, they do have a lot of like high-end things there. But I think that's the reason that people don't go with little kids. It's not because you can't or they won't enjoy it, because I promise I loved it as a little kid. What's not to love? It's gorgeous. The Magic Kingdom is literally the next stop. They have 2 amazing pools and a splash pad. You can rent boats. It's amazing.
Yeah,
we absolutely
it's awesome.
love it.
I do like the description of the theme as grown-up Disney, but that doesn't mean it excludes kids.
Right.
And
I think they're referring to as opposed to Art of Animation, which is like garish characters.
Right, cartoony. But I guarantee you, unless you stayed at like some of the world's best hotels, the Grand Floridian is going to be one of the best hotels you've ever stayed at.
We stayed at the Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, and
that place sucked in comparison to the
we
Grand
stayed
Floridian.
at the Bellagio in Las Vegas.
Grand Floridian's way better.
I wouldn't say either sucked.
The Ritz-Carlton in Chicago did not impress me.
There were no rides. The Grand Floridian was just better.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Last one is Wilderness Lodge. 46 reviews, 8.98 out of 10, and a 96% of people recommended it. So the worst review here is 3 stars out of 10. And they say, after trying value and moderate resorts on prior vacations, booked a room at the Wilderness Lodge. The greeting was wonderful. Didn't even have to check in. The package was brought to us, and we were oriented to the lodge. What package?
What?
The package was brought to us, and we were oriented to the lodge.
You know, the package.
Hey.
The package.
Wow! What incredibly beautiful surroundings. No theming detail was missed. Paid extra for a courtyard view. This was a waste of money. Was on the 2nd floor, only saw trees off the balcony with a glimpse of the pool and nothing of the geyser or lake. Food and quick service was very good, but the actual serving area was much too small for a resort this size. Food service staff was best we've ever met. On the last day, my son, who has Asperger's type problems, had a meltdown which involves crazy levels of crying. The manager saw this and interfered, said he couldn't have any situations where children were obviously upset by their parents. Tried to explain son's needs and interventions. He didn't listen. He threatened to call authorities if we didn't follow his advice and separate our son from the rest of the family for the night. Ruined everything.
That did not happen.
Next time, we will do moderate or value where we can spread out and have more privacy. If our son gets overwhelmed and starts to have a meltdown, we'll be able to just walk him around the resort, which is all he needs to calm back down. Pros, beautiful surroundings. Cons, manager interfered. Upgraded room, not worth the money.
I would like to hear more about that story from a person, not them. So this is a negative review because
They're
of
saying,
this Asperger's meltdown.
so you have to keep in mind that the cast members, especially a manager, should be trained in how to deal with issues. I mean, that's like what their primary job is. And people bring very special needs kids and adults to Disney all the time. I find it very hard to believe that this kid was crying and the manager came and said, we need to take him away from the rest of the family.
Yeah, we're going to separate you from your family for the rest of the night. There's more to that story.
That is really interesting. Are we talking like he's screaming at the top of his lungs and like he doesn't stop and everybody's staring and you're like in a public space and
I don't know.
and he's like, we need to move you away so that you can calm down kind of thing?
I don't buy this review. And it talks about how great the resort is, and then it just talks about this one negative experience, which I really want to know what the truth of what happened was. I don't know. It just goes to show you some of these reviews sometimes.
Exactly. And that's the point of this. Okay, so the positive review, 10 out of 10. We've stayed at Wilderness Lodge 4 times now and have been there just to visit twice when on business. The theming is breathtaking.
Agreed.
You can always spot first-timers and me gazing up in the lobby when you arrive. Pros, short boat ride to Magic Kingdom where you can enter park or get on the monorail. Wooded areas around lodge and indoors and out. They did a great job with this resort. Cons, bus if you want to go to Studios or Animal Kingdom. Rooms are on the smaller side for deluxe, but are also cheapest of the deluxe. And with addition of DVC rooms, number of rooms for standard stays have decreased.
I will say it. Wilderness Lodge is beautiful. We love it there. We've stayed there many times.
And we'll continue to go back.
And we'll continue to go back. And I agree. As far as, like, they are the cheapest of the deluxe. I don't even know if cheapest is the best word. I mean, they are.
Least
but they're,
expensive.
like, the best value, I think.
Well, we haven't stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge yet. And that's kind of on par with Wilderness Lodge in terms of price. Again, it depends on what room you're staying in.
But-
We've stayed club level at Wilderness Lodge, but there are not a lot of standard club level rooms at Wilderness Lodge because DVC has like completely taken over. But we'll still go back. It's
Right.
amazing.
And I'm sure Animal Kingdom Lodge is awesome, and, like, we need to get there. But one thing I know that Wilderness Lodge has over Animal Kingdom is location.
Animal
It's a
Kingdom Lodge,
Magic
you have
Kingdom
to,
resort.
Yeah, you have to take a bus everywhere.
Even Animal Kingdom.
You can take a bus everywhere from Wilderness Lodge, but you also have the option to take a boat to the Magic Kingdom, and that's really, really nice. Yes, it is. It's amazing. They have 2 great pools. The lobby is amazing. The smell is amazing. We really love Wilderness Lodge. The rooms are on the small side for deluxe resorts. It's the 2 of us, so we don't care. If you wanted to have 5 people in a room, then you would have a problem. Like the Grand Floridian can easily do that. Not so easy at Wilderness Lodge. So hopefully this kind of just showed you the different like level of, I should maybe say the scope of how people think when they're leaving reviews online. Some people, you can tell they're just they're like out for blood almost. You know,
Well, they
they're just-
had a bad experience, and so they're going to rant about it online.
Right. And that a lot of these are very specific problems, like one-time problems are very specific to like the remote or this woman with her kid. These types of issues,
Right.
I think you don't have to worry about. So yes, things are expensive, but you still can't expect perfection. But Disney does their very best to try and fix things.
Yeah.
So I
hope
hope-
you enjoyed listening to us talk. I mean, it was almost a 45-minute video. I hope you enjoyed our banter.
You will have to edit some stuff out. It'll be super long otherwise. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!